So look, when you don't know your purpose, people will use you. When you don't know your purpose, people will use you. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Look, purpose, it isn't optional. It's for your protection.
God, thank you for sunshine. Thank you for rain. Thank you for joy. Thank you for pain. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's a beautiful day.
What they do though, y'all know what time it is. Mind, muscle, spirit, motivation. Here we are, here we go. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't came across this channel, I sincerely ask that you stick around to the end. There's always going to be something that you can relate to, and this particular day may be yours. Hey, look, when you don't know your purpose, people will use you. As I said in the intro, purpose is for your protection, because you can always think about why you're doing what you do, even when you know the usage of you when it comes to other people. I'm talking about your family, your coworkers, your managers, your relationships. Let me get that out the way real quick. When it comes to relationships, you can be trapped and you can be caged, because when it comes to relationships, you will always be with somebody that knows something in you that you do not. Whether it's your looks, they will try to keep you away from people because of how attractive you are. They will make you insecure because they're insecure. This is something that I'm always seeing. Maybe you have somebody who wants to lose weight, and maybe they've gained weight over time, and you know how good they looked when they didn't have it. And they want to lose weight, and you ask them why. Instead of encouraging them, you ask them why, and you right away think they want to lose weight because of somebody else that they're interested in. That's a big one, because your purpose is you want to lose weight, period. You don't need to explain nothing else. If they're not on board giving you support, nah. But look, I told you already, I want to always use myself. And look, I have no shame in saying this, so I'm going to say it, with the utmost humility. And I'm going to say it with confidence. Look, basketball, I'm not bragging on myself, nor have I when it comes to my athletic capability. But basketball was my first sport, okay? I would go out to the country and I would play it, with my cousins and my brother. It was my first sport. I'm not going to sit here and say that I was better at football, because honestly, I may be neck and neck with it, but I don't brag about basketball, and I hardly even bring it up, because people who talk about basketball, apparently they're the best ones in the world, so I let them brag on themselves. But I've never been one to brag on my basketball or football capability. But look, in high school, I rode the bench. I was a bench warmer. I was a bench warmer, okay? Now, ask me, was I good? Yes. Yes. In my mind, I was the best. Hate it or love it. You ain't got to like it. My podcast. I believe that I was the best. But you know what? My coach, he saw something in me that I did not see in myself. And in hindsight, I definitely, with the opportunity, definitely did not belong on that damn bench. And look, I have no animosity towards nobody. I have no animosity towards him. I pray whatever he's doing, he's happy, healthy, living his life as I do with everybody. I had no business being on that bench. But there I was. Hardly ever played. And I'm talking about my senior year. I was a senior. There were freshmen that were out there on that court before me. In practice, they knew what I was doing. He knew what I was doing. But I don't care that I was 18, 17. Do you know what that does to your confidence? When somebody belittles you through coaching, having you on that bench, do you know what that does to you? If you're an athlete, you know what it does to you. It messes with your confidence. it messes with the capability that only you know, the capability that only you know, but the actual potential, the actual potential everybody else knows. So, like I said, I was on the bench at the time. At the time, at the time, that's where I thought I belonged because everybody else was better than me. Now, listen, when I say I knew my capability, I knew my capability. But when it comes to potential and capability, they're two different things, right? When people know your potential, they can steal that away from you. I hate to say it, but it's true. We're talking about coaching, all right? That's what I'm talking about right now. He kept me on the bench. I knew I was that boy. He knew I was that boy. But he kept me on the bench. Did I keep that confidence? No. I didn't. Because like I said, everybody was better than me. So when it did came time to play, the difference between the game and practice, you saw it. He saw it. So that's the scary part when it comes to being a coach. You can absolutely shoot somebody down that's capable, or you know what, that has potential to being a very good athlete, a very good football, basketball, whatever sport. You can keep them down. And now that I'm talking about it and now that I'm reflecting on it, that's a very scary thing. Because when you're a coach, you see somebody's potential. And if you don't want them to fulfill it, you can absolutely keep them from it if they don't have that support. When it came to basketball, I didn't necessarily have that support. You know, my dad was about football. You know, my family came from football. We're that gritty. We're that gritty type of family. You know, we hit, and I'm not saying basketball like that, that's what we're getting nowadays. But anyways, um, that messes with your mind, it messes with your confidence, and that's exactly what it did to me. So if you don't have that support, if you don't completely have that support to fulfill your purpose from that support, you will no longer have the potential because they can steal it from you. I'm gonna get off this I'm gonna get off this I'm gonna get off of this because now it's starting to build up some animosity. But look, even at jobs, coworkers know how you work. Now I'm talking about how people will use you when it's beneficial to them for the betterment of them. At jobs, coworkers know how hard you work. They will want to work with you. Why? Because it'll benefit them. Maybe you do the same job, you help them. Again, you're a hard worker and they want to work with you, but it's not because they like you. It's for the betterment of them. They use you. You see, people can shoot you down, mess up your confidence, or they can use you. I'm not friends with anybody at my job, and if you're somebody who's watching this, you can't be I'm gonna use that word can't, but you can't be offended. If I'm not hanging out with you outside of work, how could we possibly be friends? Even if we have some things we relate to, even if we have conversations that we can both, keep going, we're not friends, okay? If you don't know where I was born and all this other stuff, we ain't friends, okay? Even family, okay? But like I said, with relationships, insecure people make you insecure. They will see something in you that you don't see in yourself. And I had to mention when it comes to attractive people, because I see this when it comes to attractive people. Men, women, boys and girls, you see a very attractive person and then you hear about the relationship that they're in. Needless to say more. Needless to say more. But look, honestly, knowing these things, um, let me. I didn't realize how crooked I was in my seat, y'all. I gotta talk to me. You can't talk to me. I'm not live. But look, knowing these things are why you just have to have a purpose. You have to know why you do what you do. You just have to, because people can steal away your potential if you don't know your purpose for doing what you do. It happens all the time. People who are skilled, people who are genuinely good people don't become something otherwise unless their purpose isn't there anymore. When you have purpose, and I hope I'm talking to somebody young. I pray I'm talking to somebody young. Let's take it there. When you have a purpose, I don't care if you're a bench warmer. I don't care if you're an attractive boy or girl. If you have a purpose, they cannot steal away your potential. And if you're in a relationship, if you know for a fact somebody is trying to keep you to themselves selfishly, you gotta stand your ground, get away from it, or just let them know you're not going to do this to me. You're not going to keep me to yourself just because you know that other people are going to want to try to get at me, get at you. You can't let somebody who's insecure make you insecure. That's something that I do hate. I don't like using that word either, but I hate seeing a young, attractive person and then you hear what kind of relationship they're in. You know, you hear about the verbal abuse, you hear about the back and forth, and you know what that does. You know, it just makes you question yourself. And then you become quiet. And look, I'm an introvert. There's a difference between being quiet and then being an introvert. I just genuinely like staying to myself. So this isn't a topic that I had to ask myself, are these things that led me up to being how I am? They're not. Because I enjoy my privacy. I enjoy my silence. I enjoy the fact, and I love the fact that I have a limited time that I like to be around people. I'm just not able to be around people for a long amount of time because it's overwhelming. You know, I need to be able to process life. But anyways, like I said, when you're aware of these things, it won't bother you. So again, if you're young, take your notes. Pull out your pen and paper. These aren't things somebody told me. These are things that I know from experience. And when it comes to the basketball situation, I have to live that down the rest of my life. But again, I have no animosity because, you know, if God had me, if it was meant for me to be, you know, somewhere playing basketball, I would. Even with football, I would. Football, you know, stopped only 5 years ago because the love for the sport, it just never went away. So, and even with family, I'm gonna add in some controversy before I wrap this video up. But even family, if you don't have your purpose, if you know that you genuinely just love helping, and they know, hold on, let me say this again. If you're quick to help, and that's your purpose that you believe is to help, you're going to have some type of family or sibling that's going to really think that your purpose of helping is an entitlement towards them. So in other words, if you like helping people and you tell them you like helping people, they're going to use the hell out of you. And if you're a person who helps, but every once in a while you need that help in return and you don't get it, you're going to keep wondering why. In a way, you're kind of like, I don't want to go there, but I've heard this and I'm going to steal this away. But you keep wondering why you're trying to play God, and you keep wondering why you're on the cross. And I say that, I don't want to say that controversially. I don't even know if that's a word, but if you think about it, you're trying to help. You're trying to help everybody, but it's like you're being tortured from it emotionally, financially, even spiritually. You're asking God why, but God's just like you're playing on a role that's not meant for you to play. You're trying to be someone that you're not meant to be. Only God can help everybody, period. I don't care how much money you have. That money will become decreased. Okay? Even if you're a billionaire, you can be more of a billionaire than what you are. But I do believe in helping. Don't get me wrong, but we're talking about family here. Family will use you. Okay? Family will use you. I've seen it, and I'm not saying it's my own family. I'm not going to put nobody on blast, but family will use you. So you just got to have a purpose behind everything that you do. And that purpose needs to be more so for you than for something or someone else. It just has to be. So like, I believe that my purpose is to be of influence. And I haven't really dissected how people can use my influence because, I don't have a large amount of people in my life to even try to go there with me. But like I said, people use each other for the betterment of themselves. Us as people, I'm going to use myself. I'm going to add myself in there. But that's what we do, because we want to be able to live a life that's good. We want to be able to do things that's good for ourselves. So when you have somebody in your life that's going to help you, you're going to end up using them. You're going to end up having them around more than what they want to be, because you're using them for the betterment of yourself. But if you have a purpose, let that purpose be for you. And if that purpose is for you, these things won't bother you, and you won't let them use you, and you won't let them bother you as well. So this video is just about having purpose and about you recognizing. I'm trying to bring it to attention. That's all I'm trying to do, because people always see something in you that you can't see in yourself. It never fails. And that's something that I can absolutely say with the utmost confidence. All my life, I've never seen myself as a confident, attractive person. I do now, but when I was younger, you could give me compliments from sun up to sundown and I wouldn't accept it. Not because I was arrogant, but just because I couldn't agree. I just couldn't agree. Now, when it came to football, it was a very physical sport, and I'm a very physical person. I don't care if somebody was better than me. I was going to play the way that I played. So that's why I had the success when it came to football. But, again, with basketball, it wasn't stole from me right away, and I'm not going to, I am going to blame my coach, because like I said, this is why. Let me say this real quick before I wrap it up. I blame my coach because as I'm sitting there on the bench, he would look back at me. What are you looking back at me for? Look, I'm not a psychologist, but I believe in hindsight, the game, however it was going, it could have been going better. And he knew that I could have been potentially the cause of the game going the way that it should. Even when we were up, the starters didn't need to be in anymore, and the bench warmers, myself, when we could have gone in, I didn't. He knew I was that boy, okay? He knew. Nobody had the handles that I had. I didn't shoot the best, but I only didn't shoot the best because in my mind, I didn't have the potential to do it. Everybody has the capability to doing things. That's why I said I had the capability. And that's why I said he knew my potential. He knew, I didn't. Don't let that be you. It is mind, muscle, spirit, motivation. Like, subscribe, share. I'm going to try to be as consistent as I can because I'm all about just improving, getting better together forever. Hey, until next time, hey, we out. Peace.